Welcome to my channel, The Historic State. In the vast, unforgiving skies, experience is king. Rank commands respect. And when flying the C-5 Galaxy, one of the largest, most complex aircraft ever built, affectionately nicknamed the Whale, those rules seem absolute. But what happens when experience falters? What happens when rank freezes in the face of impossible odds? Today we tell the incredible, almost unbelievable true story of a flight through hell, a C-5 Galaxy torn apart by a catastrophic storm, and the seasoned pilots who declared it lost. They refused to land the dying beast. But one voice, calm amidst the chaos, cut through the fear. It belonged to the youngest, most junior officer in the cockpit, and her words would echo into legend. Non Same, the sky over the North Atlantic had turned into a raging monster. Inside the groaning, shuddering behemoth known as Air Force Cargo Flight 771, chaos reigned. They were flying a C-5 Galaxy, a flying warehouse capable of carrying tanks and helicopters, through the heart of a storm cell so violent it wasn't on any forecast. Multiple lightning strikes had crippled the aircraft. 2 of its 4 massive engines were dead. Critical flight control surfaces were damaged, unresponsive. Alarms shrieked a deafening chorus of impending doom. Captain Bull Maverick, a pilot with 20 years of experience and a reputation as solid as his call sign, fought the controls like a man wrestling a demon. But the Whale was dying, and every soul on board knew it. Just hours earlier, the mission had been routine. Lieutenant Maya Singh, call sign Sparrow, a name given partly in irony due to her quiet nature and slight build, was serving as co-pilot. She was sharp, exceptionally skilled, a graduate at the top of her class, but relatively new to the C-5. To Captain Maverick and the veteran crew, she was still the kid, the junior officer learning the ropes. Maverick, known for his booming voice and iron grip on his cockpit, treated her with a gruff, dismissive professionalism. "Just keep the coffee hot and watch the masters work, Sparrow," he'd rumbled during the pre-flight check. Maya, used to such attitudes, simply focused on her duties, her calm demeanor hiding a mind that absorbed every detail, calculated every risk. Now, the masters were failing. The storm's fury had ripped through the C-5 systems. A lightning strike had fried crucial navigation computers. Another had caused catastrophic damage to the hydraulics controlling the massive tail surfaces. The plane, a giant weighing over 400 tons, was bucking and wallowing like a wounded beast. Captain Maverick, his face pale, his knuckles white on the yoke, was losing control. His booming commands were now tinged with panic. The flight engineer's voice crackled over the intercom, confirming their worst fears. "Multiple hydraulic failures, Captain. We're losing primary flight control." Below them, through breaks in the raging storm, lay Charleston Air Force Base, their destination, their only hope. Emergency crews scrambled on the ground, preparing for the worst. The control tower desperately tried to offer guidance, but the crosswinds were savage, the visibility near zero. Captain Maverick, his legendary nerve finally broken, made the call. "Tower. Maverick here." He transmitted, his voice strained, almost unrecognizable. "We have critical flight control failure. Multiple system damage. Requesting permission to divert and attempt a water landing. We cannot guarantee a safe landing approach on the runway in these conditions. Repeat, cannot guarantee. A water landing in a crippled C-5 in this storm?" It was a death sentence. He was giving up. In silence descended in the cockpit, broken only by the incessant alarms and the howling wind. The crew looked at each other, their faces etched with despair. Giving up? But then, a voice, calm and clear, cut through the tension. It was Lieutenant Maya Singh. She looked at the failing instruments, her mind working with lightning speed, calculating angles, wind shear, remaining control surface authority. She keyed her microphone. "Negative, Captain," she said, her voice devoid of panic, radiating a chilling competence. "Tower, this is co-pilot Sparrow," she transmitted, her tone leaving no room for argument. "We are declaring an emergency. We are proceeding with landing approach. Runway 33. Standby. She then turned her gaze, cool and unwavering, to the stunned Captain Maverick. "With all due respect, sir," she said quietly, but with the force of a command. "I'll bring this whale home. Get out of the seat." For a second, Maverick looked ready to explode. How dare this junior officer challenge him? But something in her eyes, an absolute, unshakable certainty, gave him pause. Perhaps it was desperation. Perhaps a flicker of his own lost courage reflected in her calm resolve. Muttering under his breath, he unbuckled and moved aside. Maya slid into the command seat. Her hands moved with a fluid, confident grace over the complex controls. She wasn't just flying, she was feeling the wounded giant, anticipating its lurches, compensating for its failures. She ignored the screaming alarms, focusing solely on the dance between her inputs and the aircraft's agonized responses. The approach was a nightmare. The C-5, with its damaged controls and dead engines, fought her every inch of the way. Crosswinds slammed into the fuselage like invisible fists. The runway lights appeared and disappeared through sheets of driving rain. In the control tower, experienced controllers watched their radar screens in horrified silence, convinced they were witnessing the final moments of Flight 771. Maya was using every trick she knew, and some she was inventing on the spot. Differential thrust from the remaining engines, tiny, precise rudder inputs, anticipating the wind shear before it hit. She was wrestling a Titan, and slowly, impossibly, she was winning. 500 feet, 400. The automated voice called out. The runway rushed up to meet them. With a bone-jarring thud, the massive landing gear slammed onto the wet tarmac. The plane bounced hard, veered violently towards the edge of the runway, threatening to cartwheel. But Maya fought it, her inputs sharp and decisive. Sparks flew as metal scraped concrete. The screech of tortured tires filled the air. Finally, miraculously, the crippled giant slowed, shuddered, and came to a halt just yards from the end of the runway, surrounded by flashing emergency lights and drenched in fire-suppressing foam. Silence descended in the cockpit, broken only by the ragged, disbelieving gasps of the crew. Maya Singh, her knuckles white, calmly reached forward and began the shutdown sequence. They had made it. The whale was home. As the crew stumbled out onto the tarmac, staring back at the battered, smoking aircraft, the magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. Captain Maverick stood apart, his face pale, his legendary arrogance gone, replaced by a profound, crushing humility. Lieutenant Maya Singh, the Sparrow, simply moved from crew member to crew member, checking if they were all right, her calm professionalism unwavering. There were no shouts of triumph, no grandstanding. Just the quiet competence of a pilot who had faced the impossible and refused to yield. Lieutenant Maya Singh's actions that day became an instant legend in the Air Mobility Command. While Captain Maverick faced a quiet inquiry and was later grounded, Maya was commended for her extraordinary skill and courage under fire. She proved that in the cockpit, true command isn't about the bars on your shoulder or the years in your logbook. It's about skill, nerve, and the unshakable will to bring your aircraft and your crew home, no matter the odds. She was the Sparrow who tamed the whale Ninen. Thank you for watching The Historic State. If this incredible story of calm courage amidst chaos and the triumph of skill over status kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because here, we believe heroes aren't defined by their rank, but by their actions in the moments that matter most.